Hello and welcome along to this, the 22nd plenary session of the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities here at the Council of Europe in Strasbourg, France. I'm Charles Amponsa, and joining me now in the media box we have the pleasure of the company of Mr. Eric PICKLES. He's the UK's Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government. Welcome along.
Well, it's very nice to be back in Strasbourg.
Good to hear it. Minister, you've just been meeting with Congress President Mr. Keith Whitmore. What was discussed there?
Well, what we talked about was the way forward, and something that I'll be dealing with in my speech is we want to see the Chavez report, that part that was agreed in Kiev, fully implemented, because I think anyone who cares about the Council wants to see the Council having a strong, resilient voice as we move through this century, where human rights are just as important as it's the core function at the middle point of the 20th century.
So what is next on the agenda in common? What would you say is next?
Well, I think we've got to, try and recognise that a concentration on our core function strengthens Europe. I think we are much more accountable now to the citizens of Europe than we were 60 years ago. And I think what they want us to see is not doing everything reasonably well, but concentrating on human rights and doing that spectacularly well.
So, going forward then, what can we expect in terms of concrete action then?
Well, I think the starting point has got to be the Chavez report. That can't possibly be the end point. And I think what we need to see is a greater focus, a greater concentration on human rights, of dealing with the more difficult stuff, of not really trying to be engaged in neighbourliness and friendliness and observing one another's democracy, but actually recognising that we are the last bastion for the individual against the state.
Now, of course, we're past the halfway mark of the UK's chairmanship of the Council of Europe. One of its priorities has been the streamlining of activities in support of local and regional government. What would you say has been the measure of progress made so far?
I think we've made good and steady progress. I think we come from a background of remembering that nobody thought Chavez would get the things through in Kiev that was achieved there. I think we've made some reasonable progress here, but like everything, there is a bureaucracy with a vested interest in not changing anything very much. But I'm quite convinced that when we pass the baton on to the Albanians, that this reform will come. And the really important thing to understand is that what we're seeking to do is to strengthen the Council and to make it more relevant and to make the people of Europe feel that they're getting value for money.
Now, we're living in very tough economic times here in Europe at the moment. Some countries are in what is known as technical recession. The allocation of resources between national and local government, that gets harder, doesn't it? And as the fiscal climate tightens, what can local governments do to make sure that European communities continue to work well under this amount of pressure?
Well, I think it's got to be from the baseline of three great things, which is transparency, openness and accountability. I mean, we've been pioneering that in the United Kingdom. Every local government department, and including my own ministerial department, now has to publish everything we do above £500 so that the public knows and sees where things are spending. We've seen much greater accountability because of that, and we've demonstrated to the public greater value for money. But it's also important that the citizen is in charge, that the citizen feels that they are able to make a difference.
Eric PICKLES, the UK's Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government, thank you very much indeed. That's all we have time for on the Media Box. Join us again soon.